Welcome to the Main Street Business Insight podcast,
featuring the stories of America's downtown and neighborhood entrepreneurs.
There's so much about being a Main Street business that is intertwined with what it means to be part of a community.
The impact that it has on creating jobs, occupying vacant storefronts, improving the quality of life, like this is a big deal.
What advice would you give to other Main Street businesses?
Investing in yourself is the most important thing that you can do.
What was that experience like for you to reach out and, learn from others?
Any entrepreneur getting into business, I highly recommend find the people that you trust that'll tell you the thing you may or may not want to hear when you need to hear it, and who will stand by you in helping to solve your challenges.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Main Street Business Inside podcast. This week's story finds me in Norfolk, Virginia, and depending on whether or not I'm officially from Virginia, how I would have pronounced that, so yes. I'm sort of a newbie, so I may have not gotten that correctly, but I'm sitting down with Kaycee McCoy, co-founder of Pawsnickety Pets and self-proclaimed marketing alchemist. I got that from your bio, and I'm like, what is that? We're going to talk about that,
okay,
all right? Okay. About a month ago, I was part of the Virginia Retail Alliance's Retail Matters Summit, and shout out to VRA and all the great work they do in supporting small businesses. And while we didn't directly meet while we were there, I wanted to follow up with you, and you actually got in touch with me through LinkedIn, and it was just really amazing to kind of look at your bio and the growth story of Pawsnickety, and I thought, wow, this would be a great story to talk about on the podcast. And so a couple weeks later, it happened pretty quick. Here we are, right? So Kaycee, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Very excited to have you here at the store today.
Awesome. One of the things that we do with the podcast is, we had this goal about presenting these wonderful, amazing stories of Main Street small businesses and entrepreneurs, and we like to get started with the journey. And so I'm going to turn it over to you and just share a little bit about how this all happened.
Okay, I love this. I love sharing a story. So Pawsnickety Pets was born with a little bit of backstory first. My entrepreneurship journey has been always driven by creativity and community building. So prior to opening Pawsnickety, I started a marketing and graphic design studio, gained a boatload of experience in all things branding, design, and connecting with audiences. And so there used to be another store here called the Dog Bone prior to us opening, and I casually knew the owner through a networking organization I was a part of. And she mentioned to me that she was closing, and I just thought that was the saddest thing I'd heard. But I was sitting at dinner with my best friend, who is my co-founder, yes. Shizuka. I was sitting at her house with her and her husband, and I was like, this is such a bummer. This is exactly what the community needs. And I have a vision of what I would do with this store if I had it. So they convinced me to throw that owner a little note and just talk to her and see if she would be interested in subleasing to us, selling some product, anything like that to get started.
Yeah.
And so
kind of taking over the inventory part.
Absolutely. So Shizuka's background is in operations management consulting.
It's a great combination. I'm seeing. When
we collide, I always joke and tell people that when we put our brains together, we're a whole functioning human. So we're very yin and yang, and very complementary in our skill sets. And so we decided to partner up together, and that's how Pawsnickety was born.
That's awesome. I love it. Okay, but share a little bit about where did the marketing alchemist sort of language come from? I've not heard that. I've been around a lot of marketers, but not heard that saying. What does that mean to you?
So to me, I call myself a marketing alchemist because I have such a diverse skill set within marketing. I feel like a lot of marketers really specialize, which can be really great, but I have just always been a yes person of like, I don't know how to do that, but I'll figure it out. So I think with my, I just feel like I have a very comprehensive understanding of all things digital, print, everything in between, and bringing that all together, I am an idea machine. So, I mean, designing and coming up with Pawsnickety brand, half a day.
Yes.
Logos, color palettes, fonts, all of them, brand identity and messaging, just hammered it out because I felt so intensely passionate about my vision for it.
Yeah, that is amazing, because it's one thing to have a lot of ideas. It's another thing to be able to execute, as they say, right?
That can be hard for my brain sometimes. So I have to bring in other people like Shizuka who can help me execute on all of those ideas.
Perfect. Let's talk a little bit about any sort of initial challenges you faced in growing the business, especially given when you launched was, right during the pandemic.
Yeah, December 2020. Who opens a retail store during that?
I swear, I talked to so many small businesses that got started. I mean, I know they call it sort of the rise of the COVIDpreneur. I mean, that's such a bad name. Right. That was the media, folks.
Maybe I'll rebrand that.
That's right. That's right. But it is amazing how many businesses got their start during the pandemic. So what challenges did you face?
We really weren't so scared because we're both so digitally savvy that we weren't scared about getting the word out and surviving in those terms. But what we were worried about were a couple of just really kind of almost embarrassing things. Number one, neither one of us have any pet industry experience.
Oh, that is interesting.
Not a single bit.
Okay.
And number two, neither one of us have ever worked in retail in our lives. So we were starting from scratch and learning as we go, and we just had to be super resourceful and work through a lot of those kinds of challenges. And then the last part of the challenges for us that are just unique to us in our situation is that we both own other companies that keep us very busy. So for the first 6 to 8 months before we hired and had other employees, it was Shizuka and I and our very sweet husbands helping us out. So we were both juggling those other businesses while working here 6 days a week at that time. So there was a level of grind we both had to be willing to accept for a certain period of time to get past that point and be able to start delegating and bringing in more people to help.
That's really intense to think about, trying to juggle not only the sort of work-life balance, personal as an entrepreneur, which is always a struggle, but the mere fact that you were running a whole other business, both you and the co-founder were doing so.
Right. Yeah. So that has always been our biggest challenge. It still rears its head from time to time now, where her business, her operations management consulting, is very cyclical with the types of businesses she works with. And my marketing studio is still just it's pretty wildly unpredictable. So with the ebbs and flows, we both have times where we're like, okay, we have all these ideas and things we want to implement, but we just got to get through XYZ first. Yeah. And then we'll approach that.
You had some intense cycles of timing here. Given that, you certainly had, both of you have components from operations and marketing that are core to running any small business. So you had that, but I'm sure there were other sort of parts of running a business, whether it was what's it like to run a retail? How do I choose a POS system or what have you?
Right.
What were your sort of go-tos for information or guidance and support during this time?
Well, luckily we've had really great vendor and distributor reps that have been just an absolute invaluable resource for us. A lot of them have owned their own stores or managed multiple stores before being sales reps. So once we got to talking and building those relationships, we uncovered that they were just a wealth of knowledge for us, and they want to help you and support you. And then, organizations like Retail Alliance, they've been with us since day one. They were here at our grand opening with the giant scissors and the ribbon and the news crews. And we had 10 days notice before we opened our doors from the time we signed our lease. So the fact that they have been there and been so supportive, and we reach out to them with all kinds of questions, they've been our go-to for a lot.
I think you bring out a really interesting point that is not always talked about in terms of where that guidance might come from. I think we think a lot of the sort of traditional organizations that might be involved with small business development, but really the whole vendor network, I mean, they're there. I mean, it's sort of like a win-win proposition.
Right. Yeah, they want to see us succeed. So if we're not reaching out and asking those questions and getting them from them, we're doing everyone a disservice. Yeah. So over time, we've learned that we're on a text basis with all of our reps now, very friendly. They are our go-to for everything from how do we improve our sales? What else do you think we could add into our store? Or to, I have a customer or my pet needs something very niche and specific. What do you personally recommend?
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, good takeaway is don't forget about your vendors or supplier networks as a potential go-to for support. Let's talk about the industry that you selected in terms of the pet business, and it's quite competitive, like most sectors of small business, right? But particularly with the rise of organic and all natural pet products, which is a great niche. Could you talk a little bit about how you've tried to differentiate Pawsnickety in comparison to not only other stores but really online markets?
Sure. So from day one, we knew we wanted to be very niche. And so everything in our store is all organic, human grade, all natural. If it does not fit into those three categories, we don't bring it in. So that's a way that we've really buckled down and gained our customers' trust, because they know whenever they walk in here, they are going to be 100% confident in the purchases that they make. So that's one way. We've seen 4 or 5 competitive stores open up just in the almost 4 years we've been open.
Oh, wow.
But we're also in the camp of there's more than enough business to go around. The Hampton Roads community loves their pets. And so we've built strong relationships with those other stores, and we send customers back and forth when one has something that the other doesn't.
Okay. That's really important. It's much like we talk about in the restaurant business. Just because you bring more in doesn't necessarily mean the pie might get sliced smaller.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely not. I think there's enough love to go around for everyone.
That's right. It's great. Let's talk a little bit about your background in marketing and design and how that's influenced the branding and customer experience here.
Yeah, like I said earlier, it's been I had a vision from the moment I knew that the store was not going to last, and someone either needed to come in and revitalize it or let it go. And so I've had that clear vision. I've always known I wanted it to be bright and playful and fun and approachable, and also just have a really strong sense of community behind it. So those have been kind of our core things that we focused on since day one. And we want that to match in every way possible. So no matter where someone finds us, whether it's coming into our store, seeing us at a farmer's market, shopping on our website, looking at our social media, through our emails, wherever it might be, we want them to have that same experience that they have walking into our store. So, you were here setting up when we had a customer walk in earlier. And that's a long-time customer. She's been around for at least a couple of years with us, if not longer. And
yeah, I thought they were you were best friends.
I know her kids' names. I know her dogs' names. We really try to give a very unique experience. It's not a big box store where you walk in and you just get what you need and you walk back out.
It's very transactional in that sort of case.
We want every single human and canine or feline that walks in our doors, because we do have cats that come in on a leash and I love it. We want every single one of them to feel like they're our best friend, that we've known them forever, and that we're really looking out for their pet's best interest.
You hit on something. I didn't know we would go down this, but we're going to go down this road just very, very quickly, because I think it's really important to understand, because one, you talked about sort of the a typical transaction versus experience. And I certainly think from a retail perspective, that's kind of where we're at in the field.
That's what people want. They expect an experience. So
and the second thing, you know, sort of on top of that, and I think is an additional value add layer, is you mentioned community. And I think that's something that we're really seeing from a trend perspective is retailers like yourself figuring out, I don't want them just to have a great experience. I want them to feel like this is sort of like an extension of their home. Like this is part of their family. I think you use those words or what have you. Could you talk about the kind of things, whether it's programming or how you just interface and communicate with them? What do you do to try to build community?
To build community, we try to offer a wide variety of unique events.
Okay.
We research, we'll go so far beyond what anyone thinks we should do to find the right product for someone. So it's not just about, you know, what we're doing out in the community and the events we're hosting and things of that nature, but it's also just about, you know, the level of customer service that we want to give as well.
Yeah. I know they probably, I think they could probably pick it up on the video screen, but you have like this little welcome home wall. What exactly is that?
Okay, so we have a program called the Podoption Program.
Okay.
And anyone who has adopted a cat or a dog can bring in their adoption paperwork within 30 days of that adoption. And we give them a Podoption kit with full-size products. It's got a 4-pound bag of kibble, a 4-pound bag of raw food, supplements, treats, a little bit of everything in it. It's over $125 worth of product for free.
Unreal.
And then we take their pictures and we put them on our little wall and celebrate their adoptions. We have a Welcome Home Wednesday hashtag on Wednesdays on social media where we celebrate it there too. And we knew from day one we wanted, and we did, that first month we opened, we dedicated ourselves to giving back to our community and donating money to local shelters and rescues. And so we do that. We partner up with all the shelters and rescues in the area, and they share our Podoption information, and then we give their customers a great place to start on the right foot.
That is amazing. I love that program, and I hope others pick up on it that are like, listen, because you can do that in many kinds of ways, not only with pets or what have you.
Right.
Let's just in terms of one more thing on the community front. Do you just have this in your staff, just have this amazing memory? Are you technology oriented where you're taking, you know, copious notes on your customers, and like, how do you keep track of, you know, who's who and what their interests are? Right.
So we have a couple of things that we've put into place here. One is we communicate with our team through a walkie-talkie app. So, you know, we have one employee in the store at a time, and it, you know, there's lulls in the shoppers coming in. So we want to hear from people. We want our team's advice and insight. We want them, our rule when we have someone new coming on board is every person that walks in the door, they have to hop on that app and shout out to me and Shizuka and tell us 3 things they learned about that person and their pet.
Oh my goodness.
So we want to hear every little detail and really know our people. And since we were both manning the store, and we both still spend a few hours a week here now, we really try and come out and socialize and make sure that we're in touch with our customers.
So clever. So clever. All right, everyone, that's a new app to get in your store. Let's pivot a little bit and let's talk about the digital, you know, sort of bricks and clicks space. And I'm wondering, one, have you seen any sort of transition in your thinking since the pandemic relative to now, but just sort of your approach to online shopping versus in-store and sort of the balance there?
So we knew at first, since we were opening so quickly, we weren't going to have time to really like build up the hype online and get that business really strong. So we focused on really honing in the in-store experience and then slowly built out that online experience. And, you know, I redesigned our website earlier this year to make it more user-friendly and just looking for those opportunities to just level up a little bit at a time. So we try to balance that now between in-store and online and treat them as like complementary rather than competitive with each other. So the online store obviously brings us a national audience, where our in-store experience is all about connecting with local pet owners. And we try to blend that in a way digitally so that it makes sense to everyone who's reading or consuming.
So in many ways, you're not creating kind of two distinct sort of profiles and pathways. You're really blending the two together. It's very, very smart. I have to ask, because I just know you're it seems like you're pretty technology savvy, but like, do you foresee a role with AI in the future or now with your store?
We've been using AI for probably since we opened, honestly. I'm always an early adopter.
You're an early adopter. There we go.
I always get put in beta mode on every app I'm on because I'm like one of the first 500 people to download it. So I love any opportunity to automate and make things a little easier on our end and more efficient.
Yeah.
So we use AI in a lot of different ways here. We have automation and workflows built into the back end of our system that we use. We use it generative AI for coming up with event ideas, all kinds of ways to use that.
Excellent. Okay. That's good to know. Is there particular apps or software in particular that you would recommend that you think are really good?
I mean, there's a ton of them out there. I am a hardcore ChatGPT lover, of course. And I love exploring all the different GPTs in there and seeing which ones really work well for us. But we use tools like Canva that have like the bulk create option.
With the built in an AI function.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Let's talk a little bit about some of the more macro trends, especially in terms of like sustainability and pet wellness overall. Could you talk a little bit about how you leverage or you explore more macro trends to define either products or services that you're providing?
Yeah, so we want everything in our store to align with our values, our core values, right? So we definitely took into consideration from day one that sustainability and eco-friendly products were a part of that equation for us, something that we knew the audience we wanted to target would really appreciate. So we have toys that have been made from recyclable materials. We have dog food that's in recyclable packaging.
Oh my goodness.
We have biodegradable waste bags. There are so many different products that in our store that we are very proud to say are sustainably sourced or eco-friendly.
And how do you stay on sort of top or in sort of tracking where that overarching sort of value-based market is going that then you can pivot here in the store?
I love nerding out on numbers. I'm not a Shizuka with my wild spreadsheets. She has an econ degree, so her realm is numbers and working those. I love reading research. So I, go to the events like the Virginia retail event that you spoke at a couple weeks ago, and I try to dive into different resources, listen to different podcasts, read different books about what those trends are. Every year we go to it's called Global. It's the largest pet industry convention in the world.
Oh my goodness.
And it's so much fun. It's so much fun. But we go to like Nielsen always does a presentation there with all of their information and data. And so I try to attend events and webinars and just soak up as much knowledge as I can.
Yeah, I think that's really an important sort of call out because so many small businesses don't either have direct access or maybe they're not sure where to find kind of the data and the numbers, or it can be costly.
Right.
How have you tried to approach? Is it just like creating a budget and trying to stick with it and these are the things that we're going to really like plow our time into, or?
Yeah, so Shizuka is a numbers genius, a money genius. I don't touch any of that. We would be so broke if I was in charge of it. I'm very spendy. So she does a really excellent job. We've bootstrapped this place from the beginning. We both made a very small initial investment and we've never had to put more money into it. So we just take what we earn and we've had significant growth year over year. And we just look for and have meetings between the two of us regularly where we sit down and I present my SEO analysis of, you know, these are the things we're missing. This is how I'm going to move forward with my creative lead role over the next few months. And she makes her decisions about what products to bring in and manages that side. And we just try to talk about it. And I mean, we have a 12-year friendship that we're based off of.
Yeah.
So we talk constantly. Communication has been really key. So just staying in tune with that. And if one of us feels like one thing is more important than the other, we're always just make sure we go into those conversations where we're not going to be offended or upset by, okay, this might get put on the back burner for now, but we're 99% of the time on the same page. So.
That is a good call out, though, when you think about, you know, there are a number of small business partnerships, often started by friends, and it seems like you the two of you have kind of like carved out your sort of your roles.
So funny, because to this day we get questions all the time of, are you guys still friends? Yeah. I think a lot of people have heard so many horror stories about, you know, family or friends building businesses together and the friction that can cause in those relationships. But we both just, I mean, there are times where we might get a little frustrated. I'm not gonna lie about that. You know, we're human.
That's in any relationship.
But yeah, exactly. Like, we've always just had such a level of respect for each other. And honestly, owning this store together, I have more than respect for her than ever before. I'm like, you are such a powerhouse. I'm always gassing her up and complimenting her.
Well, because you're seeing a sort of a different side. You don't always see people's like work and what they do when you're friends necessarily, but when you're working with them directly and they have specific roles to play, I think
and we pretty well stay in our lanes of what we're really good at, but we still open the floor for discussion and education with each other on different aspects.
That's great.
With each other.
That's great. Let's talk a little bit about the future. Maybe some of your goals and, you know, how you envision the store, both in store and online. What's the pathway?
We have some big audacious goals
that
I'm really excited about. So obviously we have a very small store, and I should show you before you leave. I want to show you pictures of what it looked like when we first started.
Maybe we can post those as well.
It was a totally different store. But we've really maximized the space about as much as we can in here. So we are looking for a bigger space in the same community. That's, I think, move number one, because we have expansion plans of maybe some services we'd like to bring into the mix that would be very complementary to what we do.
One of our predictions for 2024 and in 2025, a blending of more retail and services.
Yes, we're going to take that advice and run with it. And we've had since day one, we know when we get to a certain point, what other neighborhood we want our second store in. So I don't want to like spoil.
No, that's okay. That's okay. But certainly it's a physical plan. You know, and that's not always what you hear. Sometimes it's like, we're really going to blow out the online and keep our main store kind of thing.
We're trying to grow that online as well at the same time, and you know, doing things like redesigning our website earlier this year led to a 500% or 200% increase in our online sales.
That's great.
So doing things like that, always looking for those opportunities. Some of those projects, I mean, that took me quite some time to hammer out myself. But looking for those opportunities at every corner.
Could you share a little bit about, without like giving anything away from an actual place? But I'd be really interested, you know, because there's a lot of folks that may listen to the podcast that are interested in expanding to another location. Are there certain criteria, things that you're looking for? You sort of like build out, it needs to have this, this, and this?
We have been looking to expand the store for over a year now. I think it's been 2 years actually that we've been actively looking, and we keep saying no to a lot of options. We know how much larger of a space we want, first of all, and we're not willing to overextend ourselves. But we've got to have free, easy parking. We've got to have like more visibility and foot traffic than where we're currently at. We do great in this store, in this spot, which really honestly surprised us in some ways, because it's not in the heart of Ghent. Like the heart of Ghent, up further on 21st Street, down Colley Avenue, we would love to be somewhere down there. Very walkable. Every evening, just hordes of people out walking their dogs and enjoying the nice neighborhood.
Exactly. Okay, so certainly the size, the location allows for walkability, parking. So you've really examined that. That's good. Let's take a little bit of a look back in terms of maybe some key lessons, things that you've learned over the years. We sort of closed, we opened the show the same and we sort of closed it the same in terms of like, what's the advice? What you've learned today, if you were studying amongst your peers, what would you share with them?
I think the biggest thing for me is to use your resources. Shizuka and I rely on each other for resources. We rely on our team and give them additional responsibilities and rely on them to be a resource for our customers and us, you know, going and actively taking the time. I know it's really hard for a lot of small business owners to actually get out, away from their desk, away from their store, and go to like the Retail Matters event or something of that nature. But it is 1,000% worth it. If you put the right team in place, then you can have a little freedom to do those kinds of things.
So wise in many ways is to take the time, dedicate it, be thoughtful about where you're trying to find your resources, but you've got to be able to make the time. So yeah,
that's a huge part for people. So thankfully, we've had great employees who we can trust. I remember the first year we went to that Global Pet Expo, and we were so excited that we were like, we both get to leave town at the same time.
It's right up there with, oh my gosh.
That's a milestone.
We can take a vacation day. Yes, we are talking about Main Street small businesses, that's for sure. Well, Kaycee, it's been so good to have you on the show. I appreciate when people reach out and want to share their story, and we certainly were glad that we were able to cover this today. So thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful for this opportunity, and thank you for communicating with me back on LinkedIn that, hey, I didn't talk to you, but
that's okay.
I really liked what you said, so and I love what your organization does.
I appreciate it. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.